Welcome to the Daily Devo. My name is Diana. Today we are talking about the will of the Father. So Jesus was outside of the city gate, and he just finished up conversation with this woman where they were talking about the coming Messiah and living water and cultural differences. And his disciples, those 12 who were traveling with him, they had gone ahead to go and prepare the area and prepare the meal. Well, they came back to Jesus. And these 12 were the ones who were serving with Jesus, learning from Jesus, listening to Jesus. And they are urging Jesus to eat something. They're like, Lord, we've got to have a meal because you see, they had just traveled a long distance on foot, and the disciples knew that Jesus would be tired and hungry. Let's listen in on the conversation in John 4, verses 32 through 34, and see what Jesus has to say. It says this: Meanwhile, his disciples urged him, Rabbi, eat something. But Jesus said to them, I have food to eat that you know nothing about. Then his disciples said to each other, Could somebody have brought him food? They're saying, maybe when we're gone, he got something to eat. Then Jesus says in verse 34, My food, Jesus says, is to do the will of him who sent me and to finish his work. You see, the disciples were talking about literal food, the lunch, the meal that they were about to eat together. Jesus, on the other hand, was talking about the nourishment of God the Father. Jesus was not saying that people do not need food. Not at all. That's not what he was saying. Food is necessary, food is good, and food is God's idea. Jesus was, however, in this moment, saying that the focus of his life, the driving hunger in his life, is to do the will of God the Father. You see, food hunger has a way of grabbing our attention, doesn't it? That when we're hungry, we think about it. We think about how we can get our next meal, what it would be, where our snack can come from. Well, in a way, Jesus is using that idea to tell his followers that the food, the nourishment of his life, is to do the will of God and to finish his work. What about you and I? Do we too desire to live into God's will with his help? As regularly as hunger comes up in your day and my day, does a thought about this desire for food, does it spark a desire and a thought for the will of God? How might that kind of focus on the way and the will of God impact our day? So what about this? What if we tried today that when we get hungry for a snack, for a meal, for a coffee, for dinner, let's remember the will of God. Things like the will of God are loving our neighbor, speaking the truth in love, believing God's promises, praying for our enemies, forgiving, living generously. Might you and I too be fueled by the mission of God in our lives? Might our real hunger remind us to be hungry for the way of God, the will of God, the help of God? Let's see what happens today. I'll see you next time.